Waterloo, Iowa. A cold morning in January 1943. The town was quiet under the snow, but time was about to stop for the Sullivan household. When three men in uniform stepped onto the porch, even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Thomas Sullivan opened the door. Looking into the officer's eyes, he felt the terrible truth that no father should ever have to feel. When he asked, "Which son?" the officer couldn't find the words at first, because the answer would tear a family tree out by its roots. "I'm sorry, we lost them all five." This was not just an obituary, it was the announcement of the greatest family tragedy in American military history. It all began with the radio broadcasts of Pearl Harbor. The news turned that small kitchen in Iowa into a war room. 5 brothers. They looked at each other. In their eyes, there was no fear, only fury. Their mother, Aletta, wept silently in the corner. When George slammed his fist on the table, the decision was made. But they had one condition. "We are a team. No one separates us. We were born together, we live together, and if necessary, we die together." That pledge became the oath that sealed their fate. The Navy bureaucracy strictly forbade siblings from serving on the same ship. But the Sullivans sat down and wrote a letter directly to the Department of the Navy. They simply stated, "We have always been together, and we want to fight together." The stubborn will of these 5 boys bent the rigid rules. The stamp came down. Approved. The day of departure at Waterloo Station. The steam of the train engine mixed with the cold Iowa air. It felt less like a farewell and more like a victory lap. Thomas and Aletta stood on the platform. They were smiling, waving, trying to be brave. But deep down, every parent knows the terror of letting go. 5 smiling faces leaned out the windows. As the train pulled away, taking them from the cornfields to the ocean, they didn't know they were embarking on a journey into eternity. The USS Juneau. A light cruiser, fast and sleek. This floating city of steel became their new home in the middle of the Pacific. The Sullivans were inseparable. Whether scrubbing the decks or loading supplies, if you saw one Sullivan, you knew the other 4 were close by. They brought the warmth of an Iowa family dinner to the ship's mess hall. Laughter, jokes, arm wrestling. They reminded the other sailors of what they were fighting for. Home. But at night, the laughter faded. Under the dim red battle lights, they wrote letters. "Don't worry, Mom. George is looking out for us." They lied to protect her heart. Before the darkness fell, they posed for a photograph on the deck. 5 brothers, shoulder to shoulder. That image would soon be all that was left of them. November 1942. The destination was Guadalcanal. The weather turned as dark as the mission. The Pacific Ocean was no longer calm. It was angry. Captain Lyman Swenson stood on the bridge. Through his binoculars, the horizon wasn't empty. The Imperial Japanese Navy was waiting. The alarm sounded. "General quarters! General quarters!" The brothers ran to their stations, helmets on, life vests tight. The sea was rough, as if the ocean itself sensed the coming catastrophe. They were sailing straight into the Iron Bottom Sound, Friday the 13th. At 1:48 a.m., the darkness exploded. The naval battle of Guadalcanal began at point-blank range. It wasn't a strategic battle. It was a barroom brawl in the dark. Steel smashed against steel. The Juneau took a torpedo hit on her port side. The ship shuddered violently, buckling the plates and cutting the power. Inside the ship, the lights died. Screams echoed in the corridors. In that chaos, the brothers tried to find each other, but the smoke had swallowed everything. The battle ended as quickly as it began. The Juneau was broken, listing to one side, but she was still floating. They thought they had survived the worst. Late morning. As they limped towards safety, an invisible hunter was watching. The Japanese submarine I-26 fired a single torpedo. It was a perfect, deadly shot. It hit the magazine. The explosion was atomic in scale. Witnesses said the ship didn't just sink, it evaporated. In 30 seconds, the USS Juno was gone. Silence returned instantly. 4 of the Sullivan brothers, Frank, Joe, Matt, and Al, perished in that flash of fire. They never knew what hit them, but George survived. He pulled himself onto a cork raft. For days, he scanned the empty horizon, waiting for brothers who would never surface. Thirst, sun, and grief drove him into delirium. Survivors said he called out their names at night. Finally, unable to bear the separation, George slipped into the water to join them. And then there were none. The Sullivan line was extinguished in the Pacific. Back in Iowa, Thomas and Aletta didn't crumble. They turned their grief into action, touring the country to sell war bonds. They asked America to fight, so their son's sacrifice wouldn't be in vain. Because of them, the sole survivor policy was born. The military swore, never again would a family lose everyone on the same battlefield. Today, the destroyer USS the Sullivans sails the seas. 5 brothers, united in death, immortal in history. They stuck together, and we will remember them together.